and thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman. Here's what we're looking at. What does Mayor Brandon Johnson want to see in the city's next top cop?
We still have issues with drug use, not as much as before.
Why some transit commuters are seeing more law enforcement on their ride. Chicagoans reimagine who gets remembered through a new Washington Park installation. The artist joins us live to discuss.
It doesn't just help them with like their bike skills or whatever, but like it helps them with like problem solving, confidence.
And from repairing bikes to welding metal, a local organization is giving Chicago teens new skills and confidence. First off tonight, $8.6 billion. That's how much money Governor J.B. Pritzker says the Trump administration owes Illinois residents over the president's tariffs that were later struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court. In a second letter to the administration, Pritzker is demanding refunds for Illinoisans who he argues paid higher prices as a result of the tariffs. He cites the $166 billion in refunds given to corporations like Apple, Amazon, and Nike, but nothing for Illinois residents. The tariff refund system is structured so that only the parties who directly paid the tariffs or customs brokers on their behalf can file for a refund. But in his letter, Pritzker is demanding the U.S. Treasury direct payments of $1,700 per family to Illinois households. If you want to weigh in on Chicago's next police superintendent, you have a few chances to do so in the coming weeks. The Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability, or CCPSA, today announced 5 community listening sessions as part of its search for finalists to replace Larry Snelling as Chicago Police Superintendent. They'll be held August 17th at Malcolm X College, August 25th at Kennedy High School, August 27th at Morgan Park Academy, September 2nd at DePaul College Prep, and virtually on September 10th. An online form will be available to allow those who are unable to attend in person to also share their thoughts. Thrill seekers can experience a bit of the great outdoors on their next trip to the local amusement park.
Camp Timber Trail will also feature immersive experiences, interactive play opportunities, themed dining and shopping, countless ways for families to explore, connect, and create unforgettable family experiences together.
Construction is underway at Six Flags Great America in Gurnee on the all-new Camp Timber Trail set to open in 2027. The company says it's one of the largest recent investments in family attractions at the park, with the all-new Skyhawk, which will be the Midwest's longest, tallest, and fastest suspended family coaster. In all, Camp Timber Trail will have 3 brand new attractions plus 4 reimagined ones, along with a couple of old favorites. Up next, what's coming first? A new top cop or a new mayor? Our Matt Masterson breaks it down for us.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
As we mentioned earlier, a nationwide search for Chicago's next top cop is underway. The Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability today announced they're holding 5 community listening sessions across Chicago as part of that search. It comes after Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling retired last month. Now, 2 timelines are intertwined: the search for CPD's new leader and the race to be the next mayor. Our Matt Masterson spoke with Mayor Brandon Johnson this week to get his perspective on the search and the calls to delay it. Matt, remind us, what role does the mayor have in picking the new superintendent now?
So the mayor has the final say. He gets to make the selection of who will be the next superintendent, but he doesn't get to pick the finalists. That role is up to the commission, the CCPSA. They're the ones who are running this nationwide search. They're going to identify candidates, they're going to interview them, and they're going to make the final list of 3 candidates that will be presented to Mayor Johnson, presumably. He then gets to make that pick, but he doesn't have full say over who is going to be a finalist. This is exactly how we saw this process play out in 2023 when Larry Snelling was selected. The commission made its selections of 3 finalists. Snelling was among them, and Mayor Johnson made that pick at that time. So we'll see if that's exactly how this plays out again this time.
Okay, so CCPSA has a November 12th deadline to send finalists to the mayor. Mayoral election, though, that is in February. Why is it even a question of who will make the final selection?
Right, so the mayor's race is coming up. Mayor Johnson has not said if he's running for re-election yet, but the reason this has come up is Anthony Driver, the former head of the CCPSA, who is still a member of that commission, he issued a letter to the city council basically asking them to delay this vote or this search process until after the election in the spring. He said he wants to draw the strongest possible group of candidates for this role. He said this isn't necessarily an indictment on Mayor Brandon Johnson or who he would pick as the next superintendent, but he wants to make sure that the next mayor is in place to make this decision. Brandon Johnson told me that he doesn't feel that this delay is necessary. He said the law is in place. People fought to get this law in place for this selection process. He said he's gone through this process before in 2023. He made the pick, the commission made their finalists, he picked out of them. The process went smoothly at that point. He said there's no reason not to do it again as it's laid out currently.
And what did the mayor say that he wants to see in the next top cop?
A lot of the same things he saw in Larry Snelling. He said somebody who, they don't necessarily have to be a CPD vet like he was. He had been in the department for 3 decades, but somebody who understands and respects the role of rank and file officers. Somebody who can build on the constitutional policing requirements that are laid out under the consent decree, that there was progress under Larry Snelling compared to previous superintendents. He also wants to find somebody who's going to work with community violence interrupters. He's repeatedly credited those groups with helping drive down these historic violence reductions that we've seen in Chicago over the last couple of years. So those are some of the traits that he outlined for his next top cop.
Okay, Matt Masterson, thanks so much. We'll see how this plays out, of course.
Thanks, Brandis.
And you can read Matt's full story on our website. There you can also find the schedule for those community listening sessions being held for the superintendent search. It's all at WTTW.com/news. Up next, how a new state law puts more Cook County Sheriff's Police on the L and how it's working.
WTTW News coverage of policing and police reform is supported by the Joyce Foundation.
Violent crime along the CTA's bus and train lines are down 30% year to date, according to the Chicago Police Department. That may be in part because of a law enforcement effort introduced by the state's new Northern Illinois Transit Authority, created to replace the Regional Transit Authority. The bill that created the agency to oversee the CTA, Metro, and PACE also created a task force where area law enforcement agencies partner to put the brakes on transit crimes. We recently rode along with Cook County Sheriff's deputies to see how they got on track. Here's another look.
Hey.
Most folks riding the CTA won't witness a scene like this. A handful of sheriff's police officers going car to car while riding the L.
We found that if we keep moving, we can actually hit all the cars and everything else like that. Yeah, back when we started that. And officers, as you can see, are going back and forth, doing the same thing. Now they do that because they each stop, people get off, and other people get on, they have not encountered. So it works. It's very effective, actually. So.
This group of officers is focusing on the Green Line, riding from Harlem and Lake Station over to Damon and back.
10-4, thank you.
They're led by Sergeant Frank Washington, who's heard feedback from passengers and CTA staff.
I ride this train every day. I feel safer. I feel better. The employees, 95th Street Station at one time was filled with a lot of drugs, a lot of drug smell, a lot of drug dealing.
They're working under a new task force led by Cook County Sheriff Tom Dart. It was created by the state's Northern Illinois Transit Authority Act, or NITA, that went into effect this year. Since March, the sheriff has placed teams of officers, 50 per day, working 12-hour shifts on the green and red lines.
We started going out into the public transportation routes and trains, buses, to see what the reality was. We met with the bus drivers, the unions that represent them, the ones that represent the train drivers.
The first big problem they found, fare evasion.
We found that in numerous train stations, numerous ones, that 80 to 90% of the people were not paying. So virtually everybody was going on for free. There isn't any personnel that was there to stop it. I'm happy to say once we put people up there, it's now zero.
Next, officers began keeping an eye out for other violations: smoking, drinking on the train, transferring between moving cars. The idea is that sweating the smaller details leads to a safer ride.
We found, I think, like 20 weapons on people. We arrested 250 people for a range of offenses. God, we executed, I think, about 50, 60 warrants for people. We found 10 missing people, people who were in the system as missing persons, mostly juveniles too. We were able to reunite with either family or whatever the structure was. We found 10 people not registered as sex offenders we were able to take in custody.
The day our cameras rode along, within an hour, officers stopped a man for smoking and learned he had an arrest warrant. The sheriff's office says they've lowered fare evasion alone by 85% on the red line. The office also says CTA's own stats show a 77% reduction in violent crime May of this year compared to last year, and a 50% reduction in overall crime May over May as well. There are also the train passengers who need a little extra help. For that, people like Elizabeth Capua and her team are paired with officers to provide services for mental health, substance use disorder, or homelessness.
Sometimes it's the only place that we might be able to reach them. So, you have a lot of individuals that are houseless, that are, undomiciled, that don't have a place to stay and are utilizing the trains for warmth in the winter, for a space to be, our shelters are overrun.
Both the officers and the treatment and response team members added to their training so they could conduct their jobs while in transit. Now, after 20 years in mental help, this is where Capua feels she's finally seen movement.
Of the times I've been a part of the mental health system and working in it, this is the first time I feel like I'm actually helping people. I'm not just a cog in the system. I'm making a difference, and that feels good.
The man who was arrested during our ride-along was facing warrants for failing to appear in court on charges of retail theft and possession of a controlled substance. The sheriff, meanwhile, will make recommendations to the NEDA board about how the task force has been going. Then the board will decide whether to continue or if a unified transit police force is necessary. Up next, a new public display is unveiled today in Washington Park. The artist behind the project joins us live. A brand new public installation is looking to inspire Chicagoans to reimagine who we choose to remember. It's called Other Washingtons, and it features artists, inventors, and educators and other inspirational leaders, all with the last name Washington. The public artwork is located around the George Washington statue in Washington Park as part of the Chicago Monuments Project. Joining us live from outside that installation is the artist who created it, Amanda Williams. Also, we should mention former MacArthur Fellow recipient, which makes you a genius. Welcome back, Amanda. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me again.
So you unveiled the project just a few minutes ago, really. What was the reaction from the folks in attendance?
We had an amazing turnout. We had a cross-section of actual honorees and participants, as well as neighborhood community leaders and everyday Bronzeville, Washington Park citizens. So it was a really great kind of first foray into what will be, I think, a really wonderful anchor for Washington Park.
So describe what we're seeing for us. In the center, we can see, of course, the statue of George Washington still there, but we've got flagpoles surrounding it. Tell us what we're looking at, please.
So we have nearly 40 flagpoles that surround George. Each one contains a flag and or a biography on a banner of what I've called Other Washingtons. So these are beloved historical figures like Booker T or George Washington Carver, but also everyday unsung heroes like Benjamin Washington, who is the band director at King High School and will be coming down this very street on Saturday at the Bud Billiken Parade. So we really give a cross-section of folks that make a huge impact in our collective memories, but also in our present day.
Yeah, I see a couple of Washington names I think I recognize. I want to come back to that in just a bit. But you've also described this exhibit as an intervention on the George Washington statue. What do you mean by that, an intervention?
So George Washington is one of those figures that everybody probably can describe as something they've learned about in school, from elementary school kids to adults. And we have a kind of static way that we understand him, usually not necessarily in a positive light, or maybe finding him to be irrelevant in many instances. Obviously, he's the first president of the United States, but also renders a troubled history as a slave owner, and other narratives that are either minimized or overlooked. And so this gives an opportunity to not just erase him or to either minimize or overemphasize those things, but also to just expand what it might mean to honor and exalt someone named Washington.
So you included Chicagoans in the selection process. How did that work?
So we, about a year ago, put a banner around a fence that was enclosing the statue since 2020, and just asked a simple question: who's your favorite Washington? And I found that to be a way to really get people to engage. Whether you're named Washington or not, you know a Washington, and a Washington has played some role in your life, from Harold to Dinah. And then that really was a kind of informal crowdsourcing to get people to give information about these Washingtons that they might think were important. And then we held several workshops in the neighborhood with different groups that are stakeholders, committed knitters at Arts and Public Life on 55th Street, at the Refectory on President's Day, to really kind of pull out those stories of people that had deep impact and meaning for people. And then we worked to edit those and turn those into banners and biographies. So it really was something that everybody could feel they had ownership over.
One Washington who I think has probably played an important role in your life and in your work is George Washington Carver, of course. Talk about, his importance in history, and a little bit about, how he influenced your work, because you spent a lot of time researching his blue, the color blue that he patented.
Yeah, so in addition to this project, I've spent about 2 years thinking about a relatively obscure patent that George Washington Carver received in 1927. So obviously he's the peanut guy to most of us, but in reality he had a kind of broad range of skills and expertise and kind of magic. And so one of those was this patent for this blue paint. And I've made some paintings with those, but also wanted to bring that into some of my public artwork. And so the colors of the banners that you see behind us, as well as the flags themselves, are this Prussian blue. And then the banners are a kind of expanded palette that he developed, where he encouraged rural farmers in Alabama to paint the interiors of their homes with salmon walls and chocolate trim and cream ceiling. So the cream and the chocolate and the salmon that you see on the banners are an ode to what really is a beautiful color palette under any circumstances, but definitely in this public realm.
Yeah, that was definitely going to be my next question, because I know color plays a big role in your work, and we've seen that in some of your previous works. So then the colors that you just named, are they, did you group the Washingtons into different colors for whatever reason? Like, this group of people were scientists or politicians, or how'd they get their colors?
So no, we thought about that. So I trained as an architect, so my background and kind of understandings of space was a lot of time spent thinking about the car that's going to drive past on King Drive, and then the pedestrians that are going to walk on the frontage road that is just west of the median where the statue sits. And so really just thinking about a play on the color in that way. So they're not necessarily grouped that way, but it does lend itself in future iterations of this project to think about it in that way. We do keep families together. There's several where there's a husband and a wife, or there are a father, a son, and a grandfather. So you will see those kinds of groupings together.
Amanda, as the country celebrates its 250th this year, what do you want people to think about or consider about America as they see this exhibit?
America's in a difficult time, but I think that we all have a belief that we can live out what these ideals and these dreams, whether they were fictional or not, they're here and we're a part of it. And so I think in this moment where we see a lot of erasure, a lot of conversation about fake news, it's amazing that we live in a city where we can have support of artists and civic works that really allow people to see everyday real people. This is not a pretend thing. You know, Jerome Washington exists. Candace Washington exists. They're being honored in real time. And so I think that the message for everybody is that you don't have to be a genius or have done something great historically to be honored, to be seen as human. And I think that that message is lost a little bit in the larger conversation about what it means to be American. And so I think this is an expansion of that.
Plenty of Washingtons to appreciate. It's a popular name. So is Williams. That is where we'll have to leave it with Amanda Williams. Congrats on your new piece. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Up next, an organization teaching Chicago teens skills and life lessons through hands-on experiences.
Reflecting the people and perspectives that make up our communities, this story is part of Chicago Tonight, Black Voices.
Teen takeovers remain a hot topic in Chicago and across the country as officials and residents debate how to combat the large gatherings that can turn violent. One argument is that kids need more opportunities to access productive outlets. One local organization is taking a hands-on approach by teaching young people new skills while also building their confidence. Joanna Hernandez has the story.
Inside this workshop, lessons aren't found in textbooks. They're learned by hand.
Once we take this side, we're going to inspect it.
Francisco Rubio is teaching Chicago teens how to repair and build bicycles while helping them build confidence along the way.
Teaching them how to empower themselves through cycling, through the mechanics of like, I don't know how to do this. It's like, no, you don't know how to do it yet.
The Bikes and Roses program operates out of a shop in Belmont Cragin. 18-year-old Kevin Kishpi has been part of the program for 4 years.
All bikes here are donated and we have the kids build them. We even have a place called Open Shop every Thursday where we have kids come in from the community, closer communities come by. Like we all work together to fix a bike. I even teach some kids how to fix their bike.
15-year-old David Rodriguez says the program has helped him step out of his comfort zone.
It doesn't just help with bike skills or whatever, but like it helps them with like problem solving, confidence. We try to be a better person, like try to like better ourselves.
Raised in Pilsen, Rubio says he understands firsthand how the right mentor can change a young person's path.
Myself and my boss David, we kind of see the positiveness of like working with your hands and seeing something being really rough and you'll be able to polish it.
Bikes and Roses is one of several free programs under Communities United's Workbench project, an initiative giving young people a chance to explore trades like bike mechanics, woodworking, and welding. Along the way, many participants earn a financial stipend or a paycheck.
These programs are completely essential for these communities. Where we're at now with schools not getting appropriate funding, after school programs being cut or not having enough of them, these programs offer young people something to do in the summers and outside of school, but also an opportunity to learn in a different way.
Just a few miles away in the Austin neighborhood, sparks are flying as another group of teens learns a different trade.
I like that a lot of we all come together and work together. Everybody is helpful, calm, and sweet.
I do think it's a good skill to have because they said it's technically like a job, and I'm like thinking like, oh, this could like prepare me for like the future.
Do we know how we change it?
Instructor Sofia Lopez says the goal isn't just teaching students how to weld. She says it's about teaching them how to work through challenges.
I really do try to reinforce that, whether it's like the machine's not working or I can't get this to work in a certain way. Giving them the tools and the confidence to pause, take a second, what do I know right now and how can I fix this?
We want young people to leave this program with an understanding of how they can build their own narratives. And so, despite what other people have told them, there's a lot of time to grow who you are as an individual.
Whether it's repairing a bike or welding metal, these mentors hope the skills the teenagers leave with aren't just technical.
We live in low-income areas. There's also still some gang activity, so it's kind of like the more that we teach them how to build community amongst themselves and look out for each other is like a real benefit.
If there's people struggling out there who think they don't have anybody to talk to, or like they're alone in the world, like find yourself a program like this and like it'll really change your mindset about the whole world.
For Chicago Tonight, I'm Joanna Hernandez.
Bikes and Roses is also helping expand access to bicycles in the community. The teenagers are repairing donated bikes and giving them to people who need them. Back to wrap things up right after this. And that's our show for this Thursday night. Join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 7 for the Week in Review. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that contributes to public safety policy and guidelines.